The next thing I want to talk about is, well, you get the green card, you come to the United States. There's a requirement to be able to become a U.S. citizen that you have to be here for a certain amount of time. Now, I did an in-depth video, Nico, on YouTube, check it out. It's about citizenship timing requirements. There's various types of them, but one of the main ones is continuous presence. Means you're going to be, you're living in the United States without having gaps outside of the United States. And for most cases, unless you're married to a U.S. citizen, it has to be for a 5-year period. You shouldn't have any gaps of more than 6 months, or really not even multiple gaps of 5 months. But sometimes we have clients who are in the United States working, and all of a sudden, for example, their employer says, I need to move you to Canada or Europe to work for 2 years on a project. And that becomes really dangerous because they're like, well, I want to accumulate my continuous presence. I don't want to break my continuous presence to be able to file for U.S. citizenship. What can we do? Well, there's this option called Form N-470, which says if you are, want to keep your continuous presence okay, you apply for this form. And if you're working for what's a U.S. located company that's majority owned by U.S. people or U.S. stock owned, then you could, in the furtherance of U.S. trade and commerce, go for the company abroad. Now, it gets very technical because we do have to make sure that a company is a U.S. company, or if you're working for a subsidiary, they're actually a subsidiary, and your work is continuing trade. But the one problem that really gets 99% of the cases that I get, except for recently, COVID stuff, is one of the requirements is that you have to have a whole year, 365 days physically in the United States before you can apply for an N-470. And most of the cases that get denied don't know this requirement, and they submit because they went on a 2-day vacation to Mexico, to Canada. They flew back home for a week, and that breaks it. So this 1-year requirement, very rarely were clients that came to be able to satisfy it. But with COVID and the lockdowns, all of a sudden we have a lot of people calling saying, oh, I have the 1-year requirement. We can pull it off now. And my company needs to send me to Canada, to Bahrain, or some random kind of places. So it's a really interesting thing for N-470 to do and somebody to look into. Now, there's other requirements of physical presence, like you physically have to be in the United States for a certain period of time. This form does not get around that or undo it, but that continuous presence, saying you're consistently living in the United States, it's a kind of a forgiveness. And if the primary person gets it, their spouse and kids also get it automatically. Very interesting program that exists. I just wanted people to be aware of. Once to get their green card, because a lot of times they have to go back and travel or different things like that. So I thought it was a neat thing to talk about.
I just want to mention one extra thing about it, is that even filing N-470, and if a person, a lawful permanent resident, knows that he or she will not be able to come back to the United States, will be out for 1 year or more, they still need to file for re-entry permit. Right?
Yeah, so they could have the extended period of time could always lead to abandonment too. So it's safer to file the further re-entry permit to avoid from that happening. And that's what makes these things so complex. I still tell clients, if you can, try to fly back every 5 months, just to not to break that for the LPR, because what we're focused on the N-470 is for citizenship, but maintaining a green card could be something completely different. So there's different things you're doing here. One is for citizenship, one is for maintaining a green card. So always, if you feel like there's going to be extended absence of a year where you're not even going to visit the United States, always safer to do the re-entry permit, because who knows, you might go overseas and then you're working at this job that's N-470 qualified too, but then you get a better job overseas and you're working there. You might quit that job and the N-470 goes away and you forget about the re-entry permit. So that becomes an issue. And also one thing you have to be mindful of in the N-470 is you should never file your taxes as a non-resident. So this becomes a problem for the re-entry permit and for your green card, for citizenship. If you go out and claim I'm a non-resident, you're essentially saying I'm abandoning my green card. So that could lead to a green card being taken away, N-470 being denied, re-entry permit being denied, and citizenship being denied. So you still got to pay the taxes. And it's just, you always have to pay federal taxes, but then it comes to state taxes. And so, you might move to a state like Texas, or Nevada, that doesn't have state taxes. So at least it alleviates that, as opposed to California. That's something you should talk with an accountant about. But there are different layers to this. So if you are interested in, moving out and you got some of the requirements, that's something to definitely talk with the immigration attorney about. Email us at info@jqqlaw.com. We can discuss in more detail. But there's a lot going on there, but I thought it'd be important to share because I'm getting more and more people who satisfy the requirements as opposed to before because of COVID, some positive part about it. So I definitely thought we'd mention it.